Okay, we're going to continue on with building our first mechanism here, and we've got our template or our base plate built. We really never want to take apart past this until we're done with making mechanisms. So we've got our base plate here, we've got our front plate and our back plate. We've got some spacers here at all four corners. We've got some bearings, 2 bearings on the front, 2 bearings on the back, and basically we're set up. Now, before we go on, you got to make sure that you have these the screws and the nuts tightened in enough so that they're snug. You don't want anything to be loose. So if you can grab your fingers around this thing and shake it around and it's loose, it's not tight enough. You got to snug it up. So don't go overboard. There are little Allen wrenches or L wrenches in the one of the red totes, but don't go overboard with them because you can actually strip out the inside and then make it very difficult, if not impossible, to take back out. So make sure they're snug, but don't go crazy on it. So once you're done with that portion, you're going to want to grab these pieces. You got to grab these 2 different sized gears out of the, I believe they're in the blue containers. You're going to grab 6 locking collars, we call these, and you'll notice they have little black screws in the side of them. Make sure that the ones you grab, the screws haven't fallen out, and please be careful that when you're using these, you don't accidentally take the screws out. You'll also need, there's only one in the picture, you'll need 2 axles. You'll need 2 axles. And don't grab that stuff yet because there's a few more things to talk about. You're also going to want a L wrench or an Allen wrench as they're called. Some are called hex keys. It's all the same thing. You'll notice that there's 2 different sizes. There's a longer, skinnier one, which is the one that's featured here. There's also a shorter, wider one, and that's used for mainly the black screws. We don't need that for right now. We need the long, skinny one for right now. One thing that you might notice is that the axles you grab at first might not be long enough to fit through the front and back plates that you have set up. If so, you might just need to grab a really long axle. That's okay. That happens sometimes. You'll see in mine, I use the really long axles. It still works exactly the same. So the first thing you want to do is you want to put your axles through these bearings, through the front and the back. Okay. If you can use the short axles, great. If you can't, oh well, grab the long ones. So we have these set up just like so. The next thing you want to do is you want to slide a locking nut onto the front of the axle, and then take that L wrench or that hex key, and you want to tighten down that little screw so that it actually holds onto the axle. You want this locking collar to sit on here and hold. It shouldn't be able to slide back and forth. So you're going to do the same thing on the other side. So you've got these 2 tightened down so that the locking collars don't move at all on the axle. And then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. And make sure that you still, you don't want the axles to move back and forth basically, but you still want them to be loose enough that they can turn around in a circle. So you should be able to spin both axles in a circle. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to slide a gear onto each one of your axles, and then you're going to put another locking collar holding that gear essentially back and in place so that the gears don't slide around on the axle. So gear on first, then the locking collar, tighten it down. Gear on, locking collar, tighten it down. Next, you're going to want to grab one of these little green handles, and that's for turning the axles. Now, there's some in the bucket. There's not enough for every group. If you can't find them in any of the red buckets and we're all out, we might have to make our own, and it's simple enough to do. All you have to do is grab a gear, grab one of these short little spacers and a screw, and you put the screw through the hole in the gear, and then attach that spacer onto the screw, and that's a handle right there. It works exactly the same. No problems there. Okay, so you're going to slide your handle on, and now you should be able to turn this thing around and see your gears actually turning. So your handle, you're basically turning the input gear here, the driver gear, okay, and that will in turn, since it's meshed together with the other one, it's going to turn the output gear, okay. The other thing I want you to think about is we're going from an input from a big gear to a small gear, okay, so we're going to increase the speed going big to small, but we're decreasing the torque. So it speeds up this shaft right here, but it doesn't quite make it any stronger. Okay, so that is our first mechanism. When you are all done, please let me know so I can check you off.